Right everyone, it is Finn here and welcome to my predictions for the final two match weeks of African World Cup qualifiers. Now we've been going through this qualification process for around 2 years now, so this is really where it all goes down to the wire, and if you can't perform in these two last match weeks, you might not be going to the World Cup next year.
Do not even!
And now we do have around 50 to 60, maybe even more games to talk about in today's video, so I do apologize if I can't talk about every single game in depth, otherwise we will be here until the World Cup itself. But you know the drill, let me know what some of your predictions are in the comment section down below, along with subscribing if this is the kind of content that you do enjoy. But let's jump into our first game with Libya versus Cape Verde. Now I do apologize if I look at my phone at any point this video, I am just looking at stats, I am just human, unfortunately I can't remember everything.
We're just normal men.
But looking at our first game, Libya versus Cape Verde. Now, Cape Verde are currently top of the group, doing really well above the likes of Cameroon, and they almost look like they've kind of sealed that first place spot. Now, if you guys don't know how this works, essentially first place in every single group automatically goes to the World Cup, while second place will go through to an additional playoff round where they then fight to obviously go to the World Cup as well. So even if Cameroon also in this group can't get first place, they still have a chance of making it. But of course, Libya is also fighting for that second place spot, as they are just 1 point behind Cameroon, I believe. So obviously this is going to be a very tense, very high intensity game overall. In terms of the quality we've seen so far, Cameroon have only scored 1 goal more than Libya so far, but they've conceded 2 goals less. They probably have kind of performed better, but if you have to kind of put the situation kind of in context, I think both teams will try their absolute best, and I wouldn't be surprised if there was a draw, to be honest with you. Now, heading into the second game, Mauritius versus Cameroon. As I mentioned a bit earlier, Cameroon are 4 points behind Cape Verde at the moment. They are going to need maximum points this international break if they do want to automatically qualify for the World Cup. Saying that though, versus Mauritius, I definitely think they'll get all 3 points there. Yeah, no question about it.
Now, you see, I'm talking facts here. I don't do if, buts and maybes. I do absolutes.
For Guinea-Bissau versus Ethiopia, once again, I think Guinea-Bissau are once again by far the better team, especially versus the likes of Ethiopia. I think Ethiopia defensively can be very, very leaky. And with Beto up front for Guinea-Bissau, although he's not firing on all cylinders, I think he'll get the job done. For Eswatini versus Angola, same group as Cape Verde, Libya, Cameroon, all of them. Looking at Angola, they potentially could also make a run to qualify for the World Cup through that second place spot. I think they've had a decent qualifying round. I don't think they've quite shown their full potential, but as a nation, definitely better than Eswatini. I'll give them a win. Now, we've got Mali versus Chad, and looking at Mali versus South Africa in the last African Cup of Nations, they absolutely embarrassed us, and I expected more from them. In this qualifying stage, they haven't quite been as dominant as some of the fixtures that I thought they would have. I don't think they've fully capitalized. They've got a lot of talent in their squad.
Eve Bissouma.
But versus Chad, it's a definite win in my opinion. For Comoros versus Madagascar, I mean, where are these two teams in their group? Looking at Madagascar, second place in their group behind Ghana by only 3 points, which is very, very impressive. But 1 point behind them, it's Comoros. This could be the decider in terms of who gets second in this group overall. I think if you asked me a year ago, I'd say Comoros are the obvious favorites here. But Madagascar have really shown their strength so far. I think it could be incredibly close, which is maybe why I'm going for another draw. Next up, Sierra Leone versus Burkina Faso. If you ask me, I would say Burkina Faso are by far the better team, currently second place in their group, just behind Egypt. Sierra Leone, on the attacking front, they can be exciting, but Burkina Faso with the likes of Tapsoba, Bertrand Traore, Atara, so much talent, they would, I can't speak English.
Let me talk!
They will 100% win this in my opinion. Central African Republic versus Ghana, as I said, Ghana currently top of their group at the moment. Central African Republic, one of those nations that just never delivers on the international stage. I have to give it to Ghana. Looking at Egypt, they are one of those teams that are totally unbeaten, 0 losses so far in qualifying. I especially love their partnership, obviously, of Salah and Omar Mamouche up front. Absolutely lethal. They will destroy Djibouti.
What?
We have Tanzania and Zambia as well. Zambia, one of those teams that they always have the ability to perform really, really well. We've seen that versus the likes of Ivory Coast in this past. They always seem to haunt them a tiny bit. But versus Tanzania, just the overall quality, Zambia will take this. For Niger versus Congo, I think that's also a really interesting game. I don't think either team is particularly at their strongest at this moment in time. I think both of them defensively can be very weak. Maybe Congo in terms of attack, I could kind of have an argument for them there, but overall I would expect a very boring draw. Now next up, we've got Burundi versus Kenya. Now South African football legend Benny McCarthy, he won the Champions League with Porto in 2004 under Jose Mourinho. He is currently the coach of this Kenyan team.
When you have a job to do, it's very simple.
Obviously, they were banned from football for a year or two due to political reasons, but they're performing really well under Benny McCarthy, and I'm going for a win here. Now, kind of keeping the Southern African kind of love alive, we've got Namibia versus Liberia, and I'm going for Namibia here. As a nation, I still feel like they are heavily underrated. I feel like if you don't watch a lot of Southern African football, you won't understand how much talent they truly have. Their striker Peter Shalalila recently became the South African League's top goal scorer of all time. Really, really talented squad, and I'm going for them to beat Liberia, to be honest with you. We have Guinea versus Mozambique next. Now looking at Guinea, they are the only team in their group to have gotten a win versus Algeria.
It's part of the game, innit?
Yes, I know they haven't qualified for the upcoming African Cup of Nations, and Garassi will obviously miss that, but at the end of the day, it is still a very, very strong team, but Mozambique have also been very, very good in the group. It won't be easy. I think this will go down as a draw. And obviously also in the same group as them, we have Somalia versus Algeria. As I mentioned earlier, only Guinea have gotten a win versus Algeria so far. They are still a very, very good and very complete team. And versus a nation like Somalia who aren't fantastic, it should be a very comfortable, very, very strong win in my opinion. Now next up, we've got Malawi versus Equatorial Guinea. This is one of those games where unfortunately I have to find the stats for. And Malawi are currently ahead of Equatorial Guinea on goal difference, which considering how well Equatorial Guinea have done in recent tournaments, I've been very impressed with them. But yeah, Malawi are ahead of them on goal difference. This could be very, very close, but I still have to do a go for Equatorial Guinea, as I said, just purely from what I've seen from them over the last few years. We also have Uganda versus Botswana. Uganda currently second place in their group, looking very strong. They'll get a win here. South Sudan versus Senegal. Looking at Senegal, they haven't lost a game so far in the qualifiers.
Sadio Mane, he's the best football player in the world.
Well, watching South Sudan, they're one of those nations that whenever I do watch them, their defense is just incredibly leaky, and there's just no way they stand a chance versus Senegal. We have Gambia versus Gabon next. I think the likes of Gabon will get a very strong win as well. Boanga, the attacker for LAFC, got a hat-trick in his previous African qualifier game. I think he'll perform really well here, and he'll help Gambia get a win, or Gabon get a win, my mistake. Togo versus DRC. Once again, I have to go for the DRC here. Getting fourth place in the most recent AFCON. They've brought the likes of Wan-Bissaka and Twanzebe into their squad recently. Defensively, they've gotten a bit stronger. They'll win here. Seychelles versus the current African Cup of Nations champions. Say no more, should I say. It has to be the Cote d'Ivoire.
We need to win all the game.
Sudan versus Mauritania. Now, Sudan is a nation that can be tricky here and there. They always have the ability to kind of, I don't want to say get the result, but can almost prevent the other team from getting the result. I think they could get a draw in a fixture like this. I cannot find them for my life in terms of this group, but they are currently third place ahead of the likes of Mauritania, and I'm going for a Sudan win. Sao Tome and Principe versus Tunisia. Tunisia, far better African footballing nation. I don't know if I've ever seen Sao Tome and Principe get a point in my life.
He's out of line, but he's right.
I have to go for Tunisia. Rwanda versus Benin is a huge one, with South Africa recently getting a point deduction in their qualifying group. That puts Benin at the top of the group, purely on goal difference. While looking at Rwanda, they'll also look to get points. They currently have 11, only 3 points behind them. But I might go for a draw here, but that might be the South African in me trying to be optimistic.
Don't give me hope.
Lesotho versus Nigeria. Nigeria drew to South Africa last time around. They'll want to redeem themselves and still have a fighting chance for second. I'm going for Nigeria. And finally in this group, Zimbabwe versus South Africa. Now, Zimbabwe are not an easy nation, and as I said, South Africa obviously lost unnecessary points due to playing an ineligible player versus Lesotho a few months ago, or a few years ago at this point. Looking at South Africa once again, I expect them to get a win here. I know how much quality they have here, and I think they'll get the 3 points to kind of recover the ones that they lost. But of course, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for match week 9. We will jump into match week 10, maybe a tiny bit faster, otherwise this video will not end.
It's been 84 years.
But jumping into the first one, Zambia versus Niger. Based off of kind of what I told you earlier, Zambia should win this one. Central African Republic versus Chad. As I said, neither nation is one that particularly excites me. Saying that though, Chad had some very impressive performances versus Ghana previously. And I kind of think that's enough to convince me that they'll get the win here. For Djibouti versus Sierra Leone, I think Sierra Leone's attack will carry them forward. In terms of Mali, Madagascar, in terms of their overall quality, Mali is the better team here. But Madagascar have performed better in the qualifiers. So once again, nothing's quite a given here, but I will go for Mali. Ghana versus Comoros to kind of confirm their qualifiers or their spot in the World Cup next year. I do think Ghana will win this one. As long as they don't slip up, they've kind of been known to bottle it, unfortunately, as of late.
Same, but different. But still same.
Egypt, Guinea-Bissau. Once again, not an easy game by any measurement, but Egypt should take this. Burkina Faso, Ethiopia. I'm going for Burkina Faso. South Sudan versus Togo. This one could very much go down as a draw. I mean, where's Togo at the moment? Currently 4th place in their group. They've picked up 1 win so far, which is a lot more, I can say, than South Sudan.
I'm like, what do you say fuck me for?
I'm going for Togo there. Tunisia versus Namibia. Now, this is one of those fixtures that I feel like could be a lot closer than people anticipate. Will definitely go under the radar. As I said, I gave my love to Namibia, but I think Tunisia will take this one. Equatorial Guinea versus Liberia. I mean, I'm not totally crossing off Liberia. We've seen them play against South Africa not too long ago, where they've had some decent-ish performances, but we've also seen them absolutely crumble versus us. So versus Equatorial Guinea, where there'll be a similar situation, I'm going for a draw, I think. Sao Tome and Principe versus Malawi. As I said, Malawi are performing better. Going to go for them. Liberia versus Mauritius. Now, this is a huge game for Liberia.
He can't keep getting away with it.
Because if they can kind of get maximum kind of goal potential versus Mauritius, especially right after Cameroon play Mauritius, I do think that the goal difference could define whether they go to the World Cup or not. I'm going for Liberia here. We also have Cameroon versus Angola, which, as I said, based off of kind of what we've seen so far, this will be the decider between who gets second in the group. And Cameroon have kind of bottled things as of late. Maybe it's an Andre Onana thing.
No.
I don't know. I am a tiny bit worried for them, to be honest with you, because they are not looking convincing. A lot of the fantastic players in their squad are aging. I'm going to go for a draw here. Well, I do think Cape Verde in the same group will kind of clinch that World Cup qualifying, and I think they'll absolutely demolish Eswatini. We have Lesotho versus Zimbabwe, 2 Southern African teams. I'm going for Zimbabwe. Gambia versus Seychelles, although Gambia aren't looking as strong as maybe 5-6 years ago in AFCON. I have to go for Gambia here. Mozambique, done very well so far. I'm giving them a win over Somalia. Algeria versus Uganda. Now, fantastic game considering the group so far. Both teams have performed very well at the time of recording, been very, very impressed. I think Uganda have all potential to upset Algeria here, but I do think Algeria will take the win. South Africa versus Rwanda. Now, I don't want to be too confident versus Rwanda.
Do it.
Considering the fact that last time around we did lose to them, and this is a very fragile looking South African team considering they've just lost points. I mean, absolutely anything could happen, but I'm still going to back my boys here. Looking at Nigeria versus Benin, at the time that this game ends up happening, this could be a major game in terms of deciding second versus first in the group potentially. It could very much be a draw, but I will just go for Nigeria. Guinea, Botswana, I'm going for Guinea. Ivory Coast versus Kenya. Could Benny McCarthy do magic versus the current champions? Unfortunately, I don't think so.
And for the life of me, I don't understand.
Gabon versus Burundi. Have to go for Gabon there. DRC versus Sudan. As I said, Sudan have performed a lot better than I thought they possibly would, but I have to go for DRC. Morocco versus Congo. Now, we have not mentioned Morocco yet because their game versus Eritrea obviously got called off in the previous round, but Morocco are the only team to have the perfect record so far in qualifying. 7 wins out of 7. Attacking wise, absolute beasts. They've only conceded 2 goals.
It was perfect. Perfect.
They will not be losing to Congo. And finally, Senegal versus Mauritania. As I said, Senegal have had a relatively good run. I'm going to give them the result. But of course, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for the prediction video as a whole. As I said, I'm so sorry that I went over so many of those games so quick. If I didn't do that, this would end up being a 40-minute video, which once again, maybe that's something you guys would prefer. Let me know in the comment section down below in future whether I should take more time to go over every single game. But I hope that you did enjoy it. As I said, please do subscribe. If you are not subscribed already, please do like all of the good things and let me know what some of your predictions are. South Africa, please qualify, otherwise it will break my heart. But this has been Finn, FYNN. Cheers.